An offer. Yes, the two words we all love to hear. An offer. So, what I'm here to tell you guys is Team Warlock now have 10% off all of their Leeds United Warlock. If you just type in one Leeds at the checkout, so you can get all this good stuff here. I've shown you before. We've got the championship winning team. We've got Marcelo Bielsa here. And this one as well, guys, you can get for $5.99 if you buy another one for $7.99. It's worldwide shipping, and I'm telling you, it is well worth it. So get on there, type in one Leeds in the checkout and get 10% off. It's as easy as that. Guys, enjoy the video. One Leeds is now sponsored by One Football. One Football is a really classy app. You can get all of your Leeds United updates on this app. You can get all the transfer news, injury news, match day news, and it really is top quality. The most downloaded app regarding football on the site. So make sure you go check it out. The link is in the description, and I hope you enjoy the video, guys. Everybody, welcome back to the One Leeds Fan Channel, and we are back here with your opposition preview. Things are coming thick and fast at the minute in the Premier League footballing world, and we are here with Jack Pearce from the 5-Year Plan, a Crystal Palace podcast, which I thoroughly advise you to go and check out. It's very good. Some good content on there. Jack, how are you doing, mate?
Hello, Connor. Yeah, not bad, thank you, mate. Yeah, looking forward to another game, although it feels like we've just got over the last round of fixtures, but yeah. Not in a bad place given Palace's last couple of results.
Yeah, it's really interesting actually. I've not spoken with a Palace fan on this channel before, so it's always nice to get to new ventures and stuff like that. So with regards to Crystal Palace, how has your season gone so far, Jack? You're sort of in a similar, I won't say predicament to us, but we're in similar levels right now, aren't we?
Similar points totals, if not exactly the same, I think. So, yeah, I mean, if you'd said 29 points after 22 games, which is what we've played so far, I think most Palace fans would have taken that. Given this season is as unusual as it is, I think the first task for Palace is to maintain their status going into next season, to be honest, and on track to do so, which is really pleasing. The last two results have put a bit of energy back into the feeling around the club. I think we were not in the best headspace as a fan base and as a club prior to the Wolves game. But two wins on the bounce of this league does you wonders in terms of points and morale. So yeah, in a good place, and looking forward to Monday night.
Yeah, I think it's a weird thing with Leeds fans in terms of just momentum, Jack, because we've been on this upward trajectory for so long now under Marcelo Bielsa. His win percentage has been ridiculous in the Championship. And then we've got to the Premier League, and I think some fans' expectations might be, well, we need to be winning and winning and winning. You know, we just won 2 games on the bounce, which I just wanted to pick you up on, because any win in the Premier League is absolutely massive, isn't it? And you're not expected to win sort of 3 or 4 on the bounce. It just doesn't really happen for teams in our predicament.
Really, right? Yeah, I mean, this league is one that you can win points at a surprise and also lose points as a surprise. There have been surprise results across the board this season. Just as you guys go and thump Newcastle 5-2, then you go and lose at home 1-0 to Brighton. So this league does do it to you, and yeah, you're right. You do lose that kind of common feeling of either losing consistently or winning consistently, which you guys have been used to for the last few seasons. But the way your team's adapted to the Premier League has been great, and some wonderful performances, some wonderful standout performances from individuals as well. But yeah, this league can chew you up and spit you out, as the bottom 3 at the moment are finding out quite harshly. But if you steady yourselves and get yourself set and bring something different to the league, which you guys are doing, then you can thrive in and very much enjoy it as well.
Definitely, and the first fixture with us guys, it was weird. I mean, I don't think we were at our best at all. We had some players out as well, but on the flip side of things, I think Palace managed the game really well. I don't know about you, Jack. I probably would never have said it was a 4-1. Obviously, we had the Bamford goal chalked off, which caused a lot of controversy in that game. What did you make of that first game?
Well, historic day, because it was the day I think Joe Biden got confirmed as president of the States as well. So it was a big day for the world. But In terms of that game, you're probably right. It wasn't a 4-1. You had that very dodgy offside for Bamford, and then I think Helder Costa's own goal will go down as the freakiest own goal of the season as well. So we found ourselves 3-1 up at half time, but what we did do well in that game is manage the second half very well. So once we were 2 goals ahead, I didn't really fear that we were going to lose that lead. Despite dominating the ball and looking a threat, we still had players to stretch the other end of the pitch if we needed to as well. So the game was kind of won in the first half. But as you say, probably not a 4-1, but a fairly even game, and pleased to have won that one. I'm pleased, to be honest, playing against Leeds at that point of the season. I thought you were going to turn us over, so I was just quite relieved to have a positive result, and a 4-1 was quite flattering, but I'd take 4-1 in any game at any time. So happy days that day. Don't expect the same Monday.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping we've learned a little bit from it, to be honest, Jack. I mean, it was the cruelties really of the Premier League, and I think that was one of the first games because we had you and Leicester back to back, and it was a horrendous time for Leeds because it was 4-1 Leicester, and then it was 4-1 Palace. It's an awful couple of games, but I think Marcelo, being the coach that he is, will have learned from that, and a wily old coach in Roy Hodgson as well. I mean, how are we expecting Crystal Palace to sort of play against Leeds? Is it going to be? Do you think it's going to be a defensive counter-attacking mould? How do you think it's going to go?
Yeah, I think you shouldn't expect anything other than a rather rigid setup from Palace, particularly on the back of 2 wins where we've been quite solid. Against Wolves a week ago, we started with a 4-2-3-1 with Batshuayi playing as a lone striker, but then Wilf did eventually start to push up, and that became a 4-4-2. So I think some fans think that we have played well because we've changed formation slightly, but Roy has reverted back to his 4-4-2, and I think that's the way we will start on Monday night. The difference being though that Wilf's out of this one, and obviously that's a big factor going into any game for Palace. But I would still expect it to be a fairly rigid 4-4-2. Who he decides to be his 2 up top will be for him to decide. He's got options, despite Wilf being unavailable. So yeah, expect a fairly rigid setup, and 2 very wily operators in the 2 dugouts. I think it will be a fairly interesting battle between those 2 minds. I think there's a great mutual respect between the 2 of them.
Yeah, definitely. It was, you could tell that, couldn't you? When I think he was. Bielsa had his hands on Roy and was talking to him, and I think he does that with pretty much everyone, to be honest. But it was nice to see, because they've clearly been in the game for a long time, and Roy's got excellent pedigree as well. He's been everywhere and done it, hasn't he? So obviously you touched on the big talking point there. Wilf Zaha out for Palace, which is, I mean, we're all praising God for that one. But in terms of Crystal Palace, is it going to sort of be a straight swap between Zaha and Townsend? Because obviously, that's quite a nice replacement there as well.
Possibly that is one of the options that Roy has open to him. He very much trusts Townsend in that he knows that Andros will do a defensive job for him. And that's a big part of his, preference of formation and player choice, in that, he's happy to have attacking players on the wing, provided they do their bit going the other way as well. And Andros certainly does do that. I think that is an option, and that's probably what will happen. The other option is to start how we started at St James's Park on Tuesday evening, with Jordan Ayew out on the wing and one of Christian Benteke or the new signing Jean-Philippe Mateta starting up top with Batshuayi. So I think you'll probably get an indication of Palace's approach depending on what he does with that slot. If he picks Ayew and goes with another striker up top with Batshuayi, we might be a bit more open. If he plays Townsend, you can expect us to be very tight and very rigid. So we'll see what he does. But yeah, I think you're probably quite close to the answer with Townsend starting.
Yeah, because I think last time we played, it was Ayew sort of taught us a lesson a little bit in terms of just shielding, a little bit of gamesmanship every now and again, which in the Premier League you're going to have to get used to. And I thought I think Schlupp played that game as well. Obviously, he's going to be he's generally probably quite a big miss to you as well. So. Is it a game that you're sort of going into it and expecting to win, obviously going up against a promoted side, or is it a game that you'd be sort of happy with the draw?
No, I think you've probably earned the credit this year to not be considered the generic promoted side. And even when you came to Selhurst in November, there was still that feeling of they're a bit different to just your generic promoted side. So I don't think we're going there with any expectation that it'll be an easy game. But having 1-2 on the bounce, I think the hope will be that we certainly maintain an undefeated stretch and go into 3 games undefeated. We've got a fairly friendly set of fixtures at the moment. I think after we play at Ellen Road, we've got Burnley at home and then followed by Brighton away. So there are points to be had in terms of playing teams in and around you in the league. So I think what Roy's one of key principles really is respect the point. And I think if we get to a point in the game where there's a point to take back to London, then I think he'll be willing to take that. But no, certainly no expectation that we'll be able to roll you over. Whereas Fulham and West Brom, who you came up with, I think a lot of teams are considering them to be givens, if anything else.
Yeah, and that's quite nice to hear, to be honest. I mean, there's one guy who really tears us apart every time we play against him, and we've probably seen a lot more of him than you have, Jack. It is Eberici Eze, and I mean, it happened again at Selhurst Park, and I think Bielsa has actually called him world class, and that was against QPR last year. Obviously, Bielsa's been at the heights of Argentina and Chile and seen players of that ilk, and I think he classes Eze in that bracket. So how good is he, and how do we stop him, Jack?
He's very good. I think Palace fans had an expectation that he was going to be good. We'd seen bits of him in the Championship, and for Palace to spend what we spent on him doesn't happen very often. So the fact the club felt the confidence to put that investment into him was a sign that the club was sure. But he really has surpassed expectations this season with just his natural ability, but also his willingness to adapt to Roy's rigidity in terms of defensive setup. I think there perhaps was a natural naivety to his game about not following the other way. And Roy and his assistant Ray Lewington are big talkers during the game, and we've heard that during lockdown without the fans in the ground. But I think they are really getting their message through to Eze now. So he's finding that balance. But going forward, he really is something special. I mean, his balance and his poise is just great to watch. I was lucky enough to go to the Spurs game where we had fans in, so I have seen him in the flesh, and it was great. It was to see a Palace player take the ball pretty much anywhere on the pitch, and be confident with it to keep the ball or play a clever pass at the right time. It's great. And for me, I think there were initially lazy comparisons with Wilf playing for the same club and being a London boy, etc. But he really does fit more in the mould of a Grealish, that player that will pick the ball up and take you up the pitch. As you say, you've seen him in the Championship, and it would be interesting to hear whether you expected him to fit in the Premier League as well as he's done, or whether you suspected there might be a bit of a time when he needed to adapt.
Yeah, it's a really interesting comparison there with Grealish, because in the man marking system which Marcelo Bielsa deploys, we were almost able to, in the second game with James Maddison and Grealish, able to sort of stop those ball carriers. But there's just something about Eze. I don't know what it is. It is every single time he plays, and naturally he comes up against Calvin Phillips as well. And in the man marking system, Calvin Phillips has come out and said Eze has been his most difficult competition over the years, and it is always a key battle that we look to. But I think what it is, Jack, is it's just so hard to stop someone who has that ability on the ball and is just he just glides across the pitch, doesn't he?
Somebody said that he looks as though he's playing on roller skates, and since somebody said that and I heard it, I can't really get it out of my mind. It does look, he just moves with that effortlessness, and it's a pleasure to watch him. I think there's a suspicion amongst Palace fans that he won't be in red and blue for eternity, so let's make the most of him already. But I think Jamie Redknapp, I won't suggest that he's any form of Galileo, but after the Arsenal game we played last month, he did make the point that he's the type of player you almost want more from because he makes it look so effortless. And I think that's a compliment. And I think Redknapp meant it as a compliment, that he's not expecting him to beat 10 men every time he has the ball, but it almost appears he has the ability to glide past anybody. And we did see that goal he scored against Sheffield United, which I'm sure raised a smile in your part of the world as much as it did in SE25. When to me, the best part about that goal was the finish. So it was wonderful play to beat a few men, but the poise really just to use the defender as the marker and put it in the bottom corner was great. And he really is settled into the Premier League, and we're lucky to have him.
Yeah, he's a wonderful player, a wonderful talent, and I wish we'd have got him. I think there have been rumours for years that we were going to go and get him, and I think his price tag might have priced us out. But He was definitely well worth it. And now you're looking at probably, doubling, if not tripling his value, which is obviously a positive for Palace. But in terms of other outlets that we have to watch out for, obviously we spoke about Ayew, we've spoken about Eze, Zaha's not going to be playing. So who else would you say that Leeds have got to really keep tabs on, Jack, or are those two sort of the main ones?
No, I think if it, without Wilf, we probably are looking for the likes of Ayew and Eze to be that influence on the team to keep the ball and keep us going up the pitch. If those two start, I'd expect those two to be probably the biggest threats in terms of keep ball and making sure that we are a threat. But if he starts Benteke, then Benteke looks more of the striker as he was at Villa than he has done in the last couple of seasons. He's only scored 3 goals this season, but that's better than we've seen in previous seasons at Palace. So we're pleased to see that, and he does put a shift in. Some games he's a bit anonymous, and risks the ire of Palace fans. So, but if he does start, he will certainly occupy your centre backs. I know you've had a bit of turnover with centre backs this season with injuries, but it looks as though the two that are currently there have formed a solid partnership. So if Benteke was to start, he will occupy one of the two you're currently playing. But Batshuayi flatters to deceive sometimes. But if he gets a chance, he will be there to at least take it. Whether or not he puts it away or not, you don't know. But he does have a fondness for straying into offside positions that do frustrate Palace fans largely. But anyone that starts up top will be a threat. And the kind of joker in the pack really is Jean-Philippe Mateta. We've not seen him yet. He hasn't appeared from the bench at all in the 2 games that he could have done. But I watched a couple of games with him at Mainz without any proper focus on him. But he looks like he's happy to receive the ball in areas, and also looks a threat in behind as well. So if he was to have minutes on the pitch, I suggest you keep an eye on him, because we don't really know what he can do ourselves. So it's one of those where he might start with a bang, or he might look a bit undercooked. We're not sure entirely what to expect from JPM.
Yeah, Jack, thank you so much for joining. Can you give us a score prediction? Can I push you for one?
I'll go neutral. I'll go with a 1-1.
A 1-1, yeah. I think I'm going to go because with Leeds, it's always goals. I'm going to go with another 2-2. I think it'll be a tightly contested game. 2 good teams, 2 good attackers as well. Yeah, that's it, Jack. Well, thank you so much. People can also find Jack, as I've said at the start, on the 5-year plan, a Crystal Palace podcast. And all Jack's links and socials and stuff will be in the description below. So, Jack, thank you so much for joining, mate.
Perfect. Thanks, Connor. Cheers for your time.
See you later, mate.